Modeling something like this, your side views can really begin to come in handy, because, well, especially if you haven't rotated them, you know, it'll be exact, but you can see it's a lot easier if I just want to grab, you know, these three faces in this view right here. So if I turn that off, camera base selection, it selects all those back there, and you know, if it's a really detailed model, it can select tons of geometry behind it. So yeah, so I will actually, you can see in the top view they're kind of lined up the same, so I want it off right now. But yeah, if I were to try to select it like this, I might get a different amount of faces, so I'm going to use the top view and just drag over so I select both. Let me see. So yeah, alright, I'm actually going to position like this, delete those faces, delete those faces, kind of repeat that, and then I can, rather than trying to rotate each one, then I can kind of rotate this and manipulate this, and you know, I can go in and size these to my liking, depending on where I am. Then I was thinking, yeah, another way, I would just rotate these and kind of get a similar look to that. So probably not as fast as the lattice. A really cool technique I learned that I wanted to show with you, we'll go into front view, just go into, let's see if I go into curves, and then I was making a bench and trying to figure out how to, using the EP curve tool, CV will work fine. They're just kind of different in how they set up their points. But, so I have that curve, I'm going to hit return to finish that. Then I'm going to make a new piece of geometry, and that's over there. Move that. Oops, I want to grab the arrow, not the middle bar. And I want to just start, just for now, make it, so just be an example. But this is how I created this bench right there, at least the planks. Sometimes I scale it down and then just move it on that one, because if you just scale it down like this way, then it's moving just this one and not the other. So if you scale it down, it'll move both, and then you can just make your adjustments with that. So we'll just move that in, and then really what I'm going to do is click this and then click the other, and under animate, go to motion path, attach to motion path, and then you can choose how long it is. It's from the last time I set it 13, that should be alright. So animate, motion path, attach to motion path, and from there it'll follow this, and you can rotate it and stuff. I actually found scaling it, for if it's this simple, can kind of get you the look you want pretty easily. If we go here and scale it that way, you could also do it by rotating, but that's what I like for right here. So yeah, it goes along like that all the way up. This is a pretty steep curve, but we'll see if I can remember all the steps. Then I want to do create animation snapshot. Give it a second to load, and you see it's made a snapshot of all of these right here. And yeah, if you wanted more, you could turn it up. This is 13 because that's how long the animation lasts, so it's a snapshot of all of them. And then, important thing to talk about, deleting history. For a while when I was starting, I didn't really know when to use it or when to not. But yeah, what delete history is, like, especially if you use it with a curve, it'll still be attached, but then if you try to move the curve, it'll freak out and get enormous. because it's still attached to that curve. So yeah, if you were to select all of these, but if you delete your history, then you actually have this as your own geometry. So you're actually creating geometry through an animation trail, which is really helpful. And you can see the center pivot if you're trying to rotate this. It's way up there. So I just have delete history and modify center pivot. So now it's at a better spot where it can, but they're not grouped. So you're selecting all of them, they're not grouped, so it'll still affect it differently. Whereas if you were to group them, center your pivot, then it will treat it more, well, it's giving me trouble since I haven't deleted the history. And I'm going to group it, modify the center pivot, and now it'll all rotate together since there's not that history anymore. And you can delete the curve if you want, but if you want to modify it, you know, you can edit the curve and that would affect it, but once you delete that history, that connection's gone. One of the important pieces of advice I can give is, before you start really editing and extruding, just start by building in the mount kind of thinking. So like for creating these windows right here, you know, I'll show you really quick how to do something like that. So you're thinking, okay, how many subdivisions do I do each way? And you can see there's 1, 2, 3, 4. If you're to add another window, it would make it to 6. This direction, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. In the other direction, scale this in, scale it up. You can go to your inputs poly and just do this almost immediately. So 2, 3, 4, and 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then your edge, double clicking is really important, but you can move that kind of to the side and create your windows. Oops. Oh, this is important. With your plus and minus over on your right mouse pad, you can select the size of that. Then you go into your faces and do your extrude in. I keep mine right here, and you can keep repeating it with the G key. Yeah, and you just extrude them in like that. You can scale them down a little bit. And yeah, there you have that right there. A window. And so if you don't keep your faces together, you get kind of a cool effect like this, where you can scale in each of the faces individually, whereas if I had kept them together, they would all form into a big old block right here. And the last thing is not to forget booleans. I use the difference one a lot. What I did is, since it's hard to model cubes into like a trash can like this, I actually made a bunch of cubes and placed them around the side, kind of inside the geometry, and then just did a boolean operation for each, and it kind of carved it out. So especially if you were to make a screwdriver or something, it would be helpful then to, you rotate it. With rotating, you have, actually there's 4 modifiers here, and often if I want to rotate something like 90 degrees, I'll just see what direction it's going and say, oh, that's in the Z, so rotate it 90 degrees. What you want to be careful about using, there might be a time to do this, but if you do this very outward one, it'll do it based solely on your camera position, and you can see all 3 moving at once. So it looks kind of like you're rotating in the Z, but you're not actually. You're rotating it based on your current camera position. That's an important thing to be aware of. But so yeah, if you want to create a screwdriver, you just go in and then you can make 2 cubes and subtract that from it, whereas it'd be harder to model it like that.